It's been a long time since I did a book review. So let's dig into a book. Well, why don't I start this way? There was a time where I was just really burnt out on the Star Wars Expanded Universe. I wasn't really into the novels back in high school. I was into the comics, but at this point I was just really done. Vector had happened. Vector had been collected in trade paperbacks, and I read it, and I didn't like it at all. I didn't like the direction that everything was going except for Knights of the Old Republic. So what ended up happening is I stuck out with Knights of the Old Republic and just kind of abandoned everything else for a while. And I read that. Well, when that's the only thing you're really reading, and it's weird. I was going through a bad time in my life, which I won't really discuss, but I decided to get out of my situation and hang out with different people. And I found Dungeons and Dragons at the end of my junior year of high school. And I really got into high fantasy, sort of the bubblegum fantasy sort of stuff. And I found Dragonlance, and this is the first Dragonlance book, Dragon's Vault Twilight. And in this book, we have a group of companions that are forced into sort of an adventure. I'll get into the details right now. So, Dragonlance Chronicles Volume 1, Dragons of Autumn Twilight, is a book about a half-elf named Tanis, the property of rape, so to speak. He is sort of outcast from the elves. He meets an elderly dwarf named Flint, a Kender, which are like they're sort of like children, but like halflings as well, named Tasselhoff, who has the kleptic problem and borrows all sorts of stuff and doesn't give it back. Uh, they also encounter these brothers, Caramon and Raceland. Caramon's kind of sort of like a fighter, brawler sort of person, really big dude. And his brother Raceland is a mage. He's very physically weak, but very powerful with his magic. They also have a companion named Sturm, who is sort of a knight of the group of the Knights of Solamnia, very thought about knight, group of knights, very respected to their knowledge in this book. Well, they all meet up after 5 years apart. They meet up at the inn of the last home in this place called Solace, where one of their members, Kitiara, Caramon and Raceland's half-sister, doesn't show up. She has a new master, so to speak, new boss, and she doesn't come and meet them. And soon enough, Sturm walks in with these couple barbarians who have a staff. Well, the villains, which we don't know exactly who the villains are at this point, they come in, they want the staff, and the companions escort these barbarians to safety, where we meet Goldmoon and Riverwind, the two barbarians. Goldmoon is chieftain's daughter, so to speak. She's kind of princess slash queen of her people, but she was cast out because she defended Riverwind, who didn't believe in the new gods. And Riverwind's sort of her bodyguard and lover. So, in this story, we encounter dragons who have been gone from this land for a long time, and dragon men called Draconians, similar to like what Dragonborn are in Dungeons and Dragons. But when you kill a Draconian, they turn to stone. And what ends up happening is the companions have to, they go to this evil base, so to speak, called Pax Tharkus. They fight a dragon high lord, and they rescue the people there. That is the shortest, shortest summary I could give you, because there's a lot that happens in this book. First off, this book is split into two parts. The first part, they find out that the spoilers, that the old gods have not abandoned the peoples of Krynn, which is where they live in the land of Krynn. But actually, the Queen of Darkness, the evil goddess, and the God of Good are actually duking it out. They have left the stars, they've left their constellations, leaving big old holes in the sky, and they are waging war against each other. We do meet more of Tanis's sort of family. Not really. Well, his old lover of his, Lorana, an elf maiden, who is a little shitbag throughout this book and a little bit into the next book, but something happens to her. She is the most annoying character on the planet, at least on Krynn. They also meet Gilthanas, her brother, who is sort of a ranger, but also has a little bit of magi in him. And one of my favorite characters, Fizban. A sort of crazy old wizard who is not all that he seems, but is a really funny character. Things I liked about this book. Everything. I love everything in this book. This is one of my favorite books I've ever read. It's one of my favorite fantasy books. It's a really easy read. Unlike, because, I like Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, and I like the older fantasy stuff, but I also love this 80s fantasy where it's a lot simpler. It's more to set up the world and a campaign setting for Dungeons & Dragons, which, as I recall, Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman based these characters off of a Dungeons & Dragons session, so that's really cool. Is there anything I don't really like? Well, I don't like Lorana that much. She's kind of annoying. She's not as bad once you get into the next two books of the series. So, there's hope at the end of the tunnel, light. You know what I mean? But anyway, what do I give this out of 5? I give it 5 out of 5 stars. It's a necessary read. If you really like the Dungeons and Dragons, you want to read like some classic D&D-esque stuff, then the Dragonlance Chronicles, the first Dragonlance Chronicles book is for you. So, yeah, that's my really brief review of this. I don't have a whole lot of time here. I'll see you next time with another review. Probably Lords of the Sith over there, which is not going to be nearly as positive of a review, but hey, who's complaining here? See you next time.